Ross is a best-selling author. He ran a multi-million-dollar software company, released dozens of training programs, managed over 1 million in ads, and helped tens of thousands of internet entrepreneurs discover how they should be driving traffic to their offers. In the very beginning, nearly 20 years ago, Ross approached the web in desperation as a severely disabled veteran. Right after starting his business, he got really sick and fell into a coma. After awakening, he discovered his first $1,000 in profit had been made while he was in the hospital. This created an obsession that drove him to uncover every viable traffic strategy he could find. His weird circumstances led him to a unique perspective on traffic that can help you finally find your best way to get it. Ross, thanks for joining us today. And as people trickle into the room, let's teach them how to get traffic without fiddling around with Google too much. SEO was hard. I mean, even though we had different search engines, and some of them you could post to them, and half an hour later you could show up there, but it gradually changed, and actually just being able to get into the search engine so quickly made it difficult. But then along came Google. You and I were online before Google and eBay and
Sure.
PayPal and all those. So we are old timers. Today I wanted to focus on how to rank a website high in the search engines, because that's what I do. But I do it to rent them out. And I
Sure.
rent them out because businesses have big budgets, and they set that money aside for lead generation. And so that's how I use SEO. And I came across your product, and I thought, wow, let me check it out. And I got a copy, and I am now applying a lot of the techniques that I picked up there in my ranking and renting websites. And I also teach a course on how to rank and rent websites. And so I'm indirectly teaching my students some of your techniques. I will send them over to your site to get your course. Now, I don't like teaching other people's material. I've seen too
What
many
works
people do
works
that
though,
over.
and the truth is, once you learn it, it doesn't become mine; it becomes yours.
Right. I've always said that too. I will sign up for a course or something, and I may go through it 5 or 6 times, and at that time it does become my knowledge. But you and
It
I have
took me
also,
15 years to feel that way.
but yeah, I've gone to a lot of internet marketing events and listened to people speak. And then at the next event I went to, there was somebody else on stage teaching their material, and so I don't feel that good about teaching other people's material until I really, really master it. I think that's bad karma.
Agreed. Well, it running our business according to our values is our prerogative, and
Right.
something that we should be doing as internet entrepreneurs. And I think you and I have a sense of honor that about 97% of maybe I'm overestimating, but let's say 70% of our competitors just don't have.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
okay, because I got to be able to sleep at night along my values, not theirs, and let them do what they
And I
want.
mean,
That's
I
okay.
just remember, being at one event and listening to somebody teach something that I'd even never seen the technique before, and then 3 months later, somebody else on stage teaching the same thing, probably took notes at the previous one and used those notes to put together their slides. And so, yeah, we don't do that.
Half of them never even checked to see if the stuff worked. They just assumed that it did because they learned it from somebody else.
Yeah, and that's what I like about your training. The accidental SEO stuff. I'm looking at my notes now. Why don't we tell them, a bit of your story about you picking fights with Google, sort of. I mean, there was a time when
Well,
I tried to trick Google.
back then, SEO was a David versus Goliath type concept. And what we were looking for was, how does Google rank websites? Google came out of nowhere and went from 0 to hero. And then here we are attempting to basically take their money. That was kind of our goal, right? Because what they want is for us to be like, we need Google's traffic, we'll pay for it.
Right.
Well, SEO guys are the exact opposite. I'm going to figure out what, basically we were reverse analysts, data chemists, trying to figure out the formulas to get websites to rank. And here's the best part. I was totally convinced I had the best way, but you and I could have sat next to each other, done things completely differently, and
Right.
still gotten the exact same result. And that was something that, again, took me 5 to 10 years to figure out. So here I am, let's say, goodness, this was probably 2010, 2011. And my formula works, and it works well, and it works fast, and it's like perfect. So I'm excited. I was backing away from the software side of my business. I was actually selling off some of the stuff, and I was on page 1 for the term SEO software. And it took me a massive amount of work to get there.
Yeah.
So, I've got the crown on, right? I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm selling this brand. And I also had just taught a course teaching how I did SEO for clients. One day, Google rolled out, it might have been the Panda update. I'm not 100% sure on the name. It destroyed the sale of my brand because I no longer ranked number 1 on, number 1 on page 1 for SEO software.
Right.
I was now on page 174.
Okay.
And my way of ranking websites did not work anymore. So it knocked me on my behind, completely sapped my confidence. I then had to work with all my customers because these people had paid me, I believe it was a $2,000 course. Some people might have gotten other arrangements, but we're talking about 40 people that paid me a large amount of money for my way that while delivering the course,
Right.
Google flipped a switch and said, not anymore. So
Yeah.
I did the honorable thing. I helped. I got everyone back. I ended up taking a really bad deal for the sale of the brand. That's a conversation I won't tell. Let's just say Ross did not do well. He did not get the 6 figures he was hoping for.
Right.
And he ended up working with a major butthead for about a year to balance the investment in that brand. So anyway, I promised in those moments I wasn't going to do SEO at all, ever again. What it did was it pushed me to a place where instead of David versus Goliath, how about I'm just going to be a good boy now? I'm going to give them what they're looking for instead of trying to figure out their formulas and manipulate things and, create systems that give me an unfair advantage. What if I just did what they wanted? And it completely changed my business.
That phrase "unfair advantage" is something that copywriters use a lot, because everybody seems to be looking for that unfair advantage. And your course is called Accidental SEO. Some of the tricks that I learned were accidental, like 10 to 15 years, 10 years ago, probably. I had a show on Blog Talk Radio, and it was just audio only. And I'd go on the platform and announce who my guest was and what the topic of their discussion was going to be about, the conversation. And I noticed that within an hour or so of posting about them appearing on my show, they were in the search engines. So I accidentally learned that Google was scouring that Blog Talk Radio site, and if I wanted something to show up in the search engines, I just had to go to the site and post about it, regardless of whether or not I was hosting a show. Accidental discovery that Google was, spying on that site.
So the cool thing that you figured out, and this is something I've taught for coming up on, let's say from almost day 1, the harder it is to do, the better it's going to work. And what I mean by that, and I'll break this down, Blog Talk Radio ranked really well because you have to set up an account and you have to have a bunch of materials to make Blog Talk Radio work. It's an extension on why a podcast does really well for most people, even if they don't have a large audience.
Right.
Because all of the work involved, because this isn't something, well, at least not yet, where you can just type in an idea and then bam, it pops up. It requires work, experience, knowledge, wisdom, maybe even. And then all the materials and all the work and generally a paid platform of some sort that brings it all together. So because there's so much involved, that's going to work. So an unfair comparison would be sponsoring a big charity. Yeah. If you give them enough and they do a page on your business on their website, it is one of the best things you can get. But most bigger charities, you're looking at $20,000 to $50,000 donations to get this. Yeah. If you get it, it's absolutely an unfair advantage. You paid a massive amount of money for it and you deserve it, but that's another thing. It's not an easy thing to get. So it has a huge amount of value.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of us that aren't in the industry don't understand that a lot of times you do have to pay to play. You know, uh,
I wouldn't say have to, but if you can, winning is so much easier. If you have money
yeah,
to throw around, it changes, basically, it changes the balance of work versus money. If you have the money, you can pay your way into all kinds of cool tricks.
yeah. I won't mention any names, but there's one podcaster with millions of subscribers, and I got an email from him that said, do you want to be on my show, basically? And I clicked through his offer, and it was pay me $25,000, and I'll feature on the episode. And I mentioned that inside my private Facebook group, and they're like, "Look what he's charging." I'm like, "But it's worth it to me, actually. If I had that much to just throw away, you know,
Totally.
all of
Well,
a
then
sudden
that's
you're a
it.
player."
If you can pay to play, that kind of offer has value then. But if you're more focused on building your retirement portfolio or not throwing money around in your business, no one says you have to. And anyone that does is, depending on what they're telling you to do, you
Right,
don't have to throw money at stuff. It just means you're going to have to use blood, sweat, and tears to fuel your business instead. And that's acceptable. But man, if we could pay that 25K to that guy on the podcast with millions of listeners, think about, depending on what your offer is and whether
right,
that audience is aligned with what that offer is. Can you imagine, especially if you had something like what we do where it's digital
right,
stuff, so
right.
there's no cap on how much there is. Imagine how many, let's say you pull 10,000 new customers out. If you've got a reasonably sized back end offer, again, that you don't have to deliver one-to-one, being able to pull out a couple from that 10,000 front end buyers, whatever it is,
Yeah,
that should be easy.
yeah,
So
yeah.
again,
Yeah, a lot of those guys have like $10,000, mastermind groups, or actually even people like Russell Brunson will charge you $25,000 to $50,000 just to mastermind with him. So it's not even the people with millions of followers. It's some of the smaller players. I mean, not saying Russell's small. I'm proud of him. I knew him when he was still in college, wrestling,
I
and on the
remember,
Warriors for him.
yes, I remember back in the day. I've been in Kevin Nation's mastermind for a little while, and it's another
Uh,
one of those. So
I like him. He's no nonsense, and he's pricey.
no, and he's been I met him a year or two after I met you, and we've been friends for all this time, and he's helped me see how to simplify my business in a way that
Uh,
makes sense to me. So for me, large amount of money, no question. How much is nobody's business. But for me, it was worth it because of one of the things we're going to be talking about, which is I've had some health challenges over the 20 or so years that I've been doing this stuff.
right.
And it's one of the reasons that my way is different. I have a bunch of reasons, one of them being that I did everything by myself like a dumbass. I should have hired help. I should have
Yeah.
outsourced. I should have done a bunch of things earlier. But if I hadn't, in those first couple of years, done everything, I would have nowhere near the amount of information in here to be able to turn it into useful things for other people.
Now, we say, you say that you need to be willing to work harder, basically, than others will. Do things that others won't do, and I appreciate that, because even in like affiliate marketing, the affiliates that come out ahead are usually ones who put on a little extra work. I'm getting ready to do a launch now, help on a launch, and I'm creating special training just for that launch, because I noticed that the thing that's missing from the product is adequate training. So, but nobody else, a lot of others won't do that.
That's all.
Put in the extra
Well,
work.
not only the extra work, but the right extra work. And that's
Right,
actually the key.
right. Yeah, I noticed people who purchased that product previously complained that there was inadequate training that was easy to follow. And I said, well, I'm going to create it. Why not?
Well,
use
and
the product.
that is also one of the keys to create a really successful affiliate promotion, is to find some kind of missing link. You found
Yeah.
the easiest one. It's the most obvious. And I was just talking with one of my business partners, and we're doing some software things based on my ideas and that kind of stuff. And I said, dude, the only thing we really need to sell software really well is a fabulous demo video, which I'm better at recording than anyone I know. I will sell the hell out of any software we've got. because I know how to do it. If you do a really good demo that shows that it works, that it does
Right.
what you say on the page, it's hard to lose.
Yeah.
So
Now, at the same time, we're saying you need to put in the time and the effort, but you know that most of our customers want fast results. It's like,
yes.
tell me it's easy, tell me it's fast, tell me it's easy. I used to write in blog posts. You're telling me to lie to you,
Yeah.
promise you the world, and I can't do that. I can tell you and it's good actually to point out what the flaws are in a product that you're selling, especially if you're going to make up for those flaws. So people
Yes.
are looking at accidental SEO. They're going to wonder, so how fast can I expect results? Well,
If done properly, almost instantly. And the one time I had where the results refused to come, I figured out how to fix it, which was one of the videos in the community where I was like, hey, I've got to tell you this story and show you what I had to do to fix it in case you face a similar problem. And I'll explain it right now. So accidental SEO was actually about 18 months old. It was a workshop that I delivered over a couple of days.
okay.
And I very much believe that when I create something that I'm doing it in a way that isn't designed to age where a year later it's not going to be relevant anymore. Now, of course, if Google imploded and there was no more Google, obviously my system wouldn't work. But I'm saying under reasonable expectations, right? I wanted it to work. So what happened was in the original version of the sales letter that I used to sell the product, the website that I used as proof of concept disappeared. It's a complicated story. I won't go into it. Just wasn't there anymore. It wasn't mine. It was a customer website, and they had problems that had nothing to do with me. So the website was gone, and I had other things going on, but I couldn't figure out why no one was buying accidental SEO anymore.
Okay.
Well, all the proof wasn't there. They would go look. It wasn't there. There was no reason to buy. So I went to my website, something I do control and will make sure is not going to disappear. And I got to work, but the problem had been that website had been sitting kind of dormant for a long time. I hadn't
Right.
had anything new on it, other than a sales letter, I think, in 2 years. So I had a freshness issue. And when I started blasting the website with content, and I did all the right things, and all the stuff in accidental SEO in the setup area, I
Right.
followed everything to the letter, and I did everything that I said I would be doing in accidental SEO. I literally followed it to a T. Nothing. We're talking for like 7 to 10 days. Nothing was happening. My posts weren't getting indexed when they used to get indexed in 10 minutes. They weren't ranking for anything. And I chose the right terms. Like I followed my own, I drank my own Kool-Aid, let's say. So
Right.
I should have been able to rank for this. And what I realized is I have almost no domain authority because I have no content on the website until this time.
Right.
So I actually show as a bonus what I did to make Google index and show my stuff.
Okay.
And of course, then got me ranked. And that's the video. That video is in the community.
Right. And being someone who's a domainer too, I purchase a lot of aged domains because they've already got some domain authority. And actually, some of them already have inbound links. If the person who didn't renew the domain only let it go or let it drop recently, you could have still lots of content, lots of sites out there pointing to that domain name, and you can buy a drop domain name for $10 or whatever. So I own. I used to own thousands of those. I still own hundreds, and I buy them primarily to use in my ranking and rent business. But some I flip. I just buy them and buy a domain name for $10, sell it for $100. You made 10 times your money. You can do that today, so why not? See, so you mentioned that you had a deal that went bad. On your site, you mentioned having something that was about to make you $100,000 and it dropped to like 20. Was that the one you were thinking of?
So what happened was the deal was supposed to be 6 figures. They had a potential buyer, and he had no negotiating power. So his initial request was that I partner with him and stay around, and that was not what I wanted. So what happened was, sorry, barking. My son just got home. What happened was I ended up taking him on as an investor instead and staying in the business that I wanted nothing to do with. So it changed the entire plan for my business. I thought I was getting a programming team in the trade, and they were really bad. It's, again,
Oh,
very complicated, very long story. And I'm leaving out all kinds of relevant details so we don't end up talking about just the story for the next hour. But it went badly, and I fought to make sure that he got a return on his investment so I could leave. And once he made about $5,000 over what he initially invested, which was $20,000, I said, okay, it's yours. Enjoy. I'm out. That wasn't the agreement. Yes, it is. Goodbye. You have it. You own it. I'm leaving. And I left.
So you probably embraced the saying a partnership is a sinking ship.
It happened to be one. And oddly enough, I've had a couple of those over the years. I've actually learned how to choose a partner that isn't someone I want to run away from after a couple of months. So
yeah, I don't like partnerships, but what I do like is if I'm working on a project for you, I want equity in the product. You know, if, like I used to be a joint venture broker. I'll broker your launch, but I want, a percentage of all your sales from all the people I bring in for life.
And that's a fair request.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get that. That if they'll think, well, I'm giving you, my profits. Well, you don't have any profits without me if you don't know how to launch a product or do certain things.
Well, and if they're relying on you to supply their traffic source, which is really what you're doing,
right.
You have every right to request that equity. And anyone that doesn't see that as someone you shouldn't be helping anyways.
Yeah, there was a software company years ago that used to have a slogan, a funny thing happens when no one visits your site. And the answer was nothing.
Exactly.
So you have to have the traffic.
Well, and if it's your website, it's not funny at all.
No.
Having no traffic sucks.
Now, you in your training, you emphasize quality content. How do you define quality content? I mean, is it like right now there's such a temptation to use AI, for example, to crank out content?
Yes. Well, and there's nothing wrong with using AI to crank out content. What people, in my perspective, and again, let me reiterate what I said earlier. You don't have to do stuff my way, and you can make everything work and do just fine without following my guidance. My guidance is that what's going to matter as time goes on and today is your unique voice. And without the right training, no AI can get your voice correct. Again, without quite extensive training in my experience, what you get doesn't sound like you. So what happens is the energy of that content, and I'm not going woo-woo on you, I'm just stating, like the energy around it, it's disjointed from the brand, it's disjointed from the values, and it may be valuable even, but it doesn't sound anything like you. So what happens is, as a website is filled with that, it's the difference between eating a chicken breast and a candy bar.
Yeah.
They're both calories. They may even be the same amount of calories, but the chicken has all this value to your body, whereas the candy bar has next to none. That filling a website with the no value content, what happens is as time goes on, people will bounce, which is like, if there was anything you could do to destroy your authority as from a website perspective, a bounce is it. Because what it's telling Google, which can measure this because most people use Chrome,
right?
A bounce is the worst thing that could happen because it's a message to Google that says this website is not meeting my need for whatever term it was that I searched to get here. So Google will decrease your rankings as your bounces increase. And as that valueless content keeps going onto your website, what happens is Google will eventually penalize your entire website because it's filled with something that isn't valued by the end user.
Yeah, it's like I'm live streaming this over Facebook now, and later on it will still be on Facebook. Every time someone views a video, Facebook is noticing they're viewing it. They notice how they interact with it and how long they stay on it. If they only watch it for a few seconds and then they go away, that tells YouTube that it didn't meet people's needs, and so YouTube won't suggest it to other viewers. And YouTube is probably the same algorithm as Facebook too. I said
they're
Google
very similar. Totally,
yeah.
They are definitely similar. Well, and they trade employees, the big tech companies. But what I will say is, and this is a YouTube thing, totally separate from our primary conversation, and we'll come back to it. When you finally make it on YouTube, It's when Google and YouTube figure out that you know what you're talking about, that you have actual value to provide, and that you're going to continue doing it. And that to continue doing it is one of the things that they reward really well when you're building out a channel. You have to be consistent, but you have to post like religiously. So if you're posting a video a week, post that video a week. If you want to post a video a day, do it every day.
They also watch the percentage of returning visitors. That says that they found value in what you're posting too. And I imagine Google does look at original or first-time visitors, don't they? And repeat visitors.
That's a really big deal, and that's something they very clearly measure. If you use Google Search Console,
okay, yeah,
it specifically talks about new users, old users, and the balance between them. It's very easy in analytics to get reporting over how many people that came to your website had been there before and returning visitors. That is another thing that is a very high value in Google's eyes. And these are the things that are really difficult to manipulate. You can't force somebody to stay on your website. If they don't like what they see, they will leave. And you will eventually lose out.
And that brings me to another point, which is, so many of us are focused on, getting someone to our website, making that one sale, and then not even pursuing an additional sale. Whereas in the old days, I remember people like John and Adam Audette had these discussion lists where we traded tactics and techniques and advice, and they used to preach, give, then take, deliver value first. I noticed that you emphasize that too. You seem to be very giving, to emphasize giving to your customers, over deliver to your customers even.
Well, and it never hurts to give extra unless you use it as an excuse to charge too little. Which I did for a very long time. When you get past the I'm not good enough and get to the point where you're thriving and doing what you love, over delivering and delivering value to the people that are giving you money is a great way to get them to give you more.
Yeah. In fact, I was taught years ago that you can teach someone everything you know, and they'll assume that you still know more. So you could teach them everything in the course, for example, and then turn around and sell them that course all in one big bundle, and they'll pay for it.
Well, and it's they're paying for a couple of things, and for the organization, for the ongoing access. I mean, this video will be up; people will be able to find it, and there's all kinds of tidbits from the course in here. But what they don't have is a start to finish process, and that, my friend, is worth paying for. So those that want to know how I stopped doing SEO and kept getting organic traffic, there's value in that, because I refuse to study Google's algorithms. I have no interest. What I know is what matters to them from my days doing search engine optimization. And now I'm just in a place of wanting to help people. And I want my business to exist in a place where I can charge what I'm worth, get paid by people who are happy to do it, and help people do the things that I know how to do that are different from others like me. And that was another really big thing. I didn't realize back in the day that I was special because I was obnoxious.
Well, I've always thought you were special.
Thank you, Willie. It took me a while to figure it out. And once I did, then I was ready to come back. I actually spent almost a decade just behind the scenes working with brands in every vertical you could imagine. And I had a blast, but I got to a point where it was unreliable. Oddly enough, with all the traffic driving stuff that I do know, I didn't build any of that for myself because I spent all my time on my clients. So now I'm coming back to teaching because I've learned even more cool new stuff. And what happened was every couple of years, I end up getting really sick. And the last 8 or 9 months, I've been kind of in that space. And it pushed me. I've had an untreatable staph infection that I'm at the end of finally getting rid of. But I get something like this. A couple of years ago, I ended up having to have a bladder surgery. And I got really sick with another crazy infection. And they had to go basically like nuclear to kill it because for 30 years, I smoked cigarettes and I would get a quarterly sinus infection. So what happened is from the age of like 16 on, up until not really 30 years, let's say about 25, I quit smoking 6 or 7 years ago. every quarter I would get a sinus infection because I was allergic to something in the cigarettes. And me being a belligerent dodo with certain issues, I just kept on smoking. And I'd get sick, I'd get an antibiotic, I'd get better. And when I hit about 35, it became harder and harder to treat them. So now when I get these illnesses, it can really knock me for a loop. So here I am. I know great things. I'm capable of great things. I'm helping good people do great things. What happens when my workday gets cut down to 2 to 4 hours?
You
And
want to
that
have
was what's
assets out there that are paying residual income.
I'm all right. I do okay. But what I needed to do was find ways to not just deliver results, but to simplify in the creation of them. So that's how accidental SEO kind of came to be, was I kept getting sick, but I still had to deliver the results, not only for myself, but for my clients. So what happens when there's a week when I can only produce like 2 big pieces of content? Or what if there's a week where I don't post anything? And I needed to be able to produce the results in potentially a 2-hour workday, if that's what I had to do, because I had to deal with doctor visits or whatever else. And that's kind of the joy of what we do, right? The ability to do what needs to be done and let the work fuel the life we want, instead of working to live and getting paid 40 hours a week or whatever.
Now, we sort of brushed off using AI, but what a lot of people don't know is some of the top copywriters in the world have for decades been using AI, as
Sure.
have the media, and they didn't put it in their voice. But I was sort of shocked to find out they use programs like Jasper and others to do a rough draft or first draft, and then they go and they inject their DNA into the work.
My shortcuts are absolutely AI. And in the content creation portion, I absolutely use AI and show it. And I show a very simple but proven strategy to get what we need from AI, but
Right.
still have it sound like us and use our own voice. So this is still, I could have called this AI SEO, but it would have been disingenuous. And I didn't want to hop on the trend to sell my program. But if you look at my Facebook, you'll see I post AI based images almost at least once a day. I'm comfortable saying at least once a day. I really know AI, and I've spent a lot of time studying it. In fact, I have custom GPTs that I give to my clients and help them produce for their companies to create content that sounds like them. So when I say that you can't just ask AI for an article on blank and expect it to sound like you, that's absolutely true. But please don't misunderstand and think that I'm not using AI. I use it for hours daily, not only for myself, but for clients too. So in the course, I show you how to produce the content using AI, but not giving away the soul of your business. Because
Right.
that's really what attracts people anyways.
That is, I mean, people. The old saying is, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And even in the retail world, the brick and mortar world, people go to the same stores and things because they relate to a certain employee or whatever. People are people, and they connect with each other. So yeah, I see that totally. What about the person though who's brand new to online marketing? And to them, SEO seems sort of, I don't know, woo-woo or mysterious or whatever. Who is your training for? I mean, first of all, it's very inexpensive, so it is a no-brainer. But who's it for?
It's for basically, if you can teach for traffic, that's the term I've used when trying to explain it to others. So service providers, affiliate marketers who are talking about products and how valuable they are, what they do, explaining things about them, gurus, mastermind creators, mentors, course creators, trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of people. I would say that this is not limited to someone doing high ticket stuff, but if you have a high ticket offer, it's no brainer, easy to grab this, put it into your flow of content creation, and use it to get organic traffic in addition to whatever you've been doing to fuel your business. The only thing that I don't think this is super good for is an e-commerce product that you can't talk about. What I mean by that is, if you can't, so if you're selling My phone's in my pocket. Okay. I wasn't sure I do. When I have stuff like this, I don't pay any attention to it. So if you're selling an
I'm the
iPhone
same
case,
way.
yeah, it's a focus thing, right? Because I
Yeah.
have squirrel problems. I have ADHD. If you have an iPhone case, very difficult to use accidental SEO for it. And to be honest, you shouldn't be. If you have an iPhone case that isn't something you produce or have produced in a factory somewhere,
Right.
you should be trying to rank for product names by talking about the product anyway. But how much do you really have to do that? Generally, not very much. So my point is, if you're trying to rank for a product name, accidental SEO can work if it's a product that you feel you can talk a lot about. If it's not for you.
If you're trying to rank for a product name, you also need to be aware that a lot of manufacturers prohibit you using their trademark terms. Yeah.
Totally. Well, there are things they can do and there are things they can't based on the laws in the United States. What I wouldn't do is bid on product names that are trademarked
Right.
in something like AdWords, because then they do have the ability to have your ads taken down.
Yeah. I mean, I've had companies issue, I had one company issue a cease and desist order because one of my friends used the term "today's special offer," I think was the term, and they had trademarked that term. The Home Shopping Network had, so they sent me a cease and desist letter, and I laughed because I didn't use it in my copy. So it's
That's incredible. Well, and it's amazing to me. So we will get stuff like that. It's almost like you'll dig this story. You'll get a kick out of it because I've had stuff like this happen 100 times over the years. I had a recent customer contact me. They got contacted by one of the picture companies, and you know what I'm about to do, that they were being like sued. They had to pay $250 licensing fee because they used an image that they didn't own, that the company owned, and that they were going to take her to court. And I explained to her it's very unlikely that happens. Generally, they just send these things out kind of as a blanket thing to everybody anywhere for any reason, in the hopes that a couple people pay. And obviously, over time, it's proven profitable because they keep doing it. Generally, they don't pursue it. They kept pursuing it. And I've never seen that before. So I told her, I said, what I would do if I were you, this was an old post that got maybe 1 or 2 clicks a month. I said, just delete it. Delete it. Don't archive it. Remove it from your site. Remove it from your server. Remove the image from wherever you may have it. And then she kept asking questions, and it got so far where I said, dear, I love you. I want to help. I can't advise you anymore. If you have more questions, hire a lawyer.
Yeah.
It got so far. I mean, I can give generic advice, but I kept saying to her, I'm like, hey, I can't promise they're not going to come for you. If they do, I'm sorry, but you need a lawyer for this because I'm not that.
That needs to be probably an intellectual property lawyer. Yeah.
I ran screaming.
Yeah.
She's a doll. I adore the woman. She's lovely. But yeah, that's not a game I'm willing to pay. And I definitely don't want to advise, hoping for the best and then have her get some $1 million lawsuit or something and be named as a co-plaintiff or defendant or whatever. No, thank you. Not interested.
No, what about, people that point out to you and I that SEO is constantly changing? You have a system, you more or less have a checklist, a blueprint. Some people would say, well, that's going to, not hold up long term,
I'm so glad you asked. So when I got blasted, which was 12, 13 years ago now, in those moments, my entire focus, not to teach, but for myself, was I will never do anything that is of risk to stop working. And what I mean by that is I'll use a network or something that may disappear. An example was TikTok yesterday. TikTok, we couldn't access it for about 12 hours there.
Right.
I think it was more like 6, but still, we lost that. I can't fix that. Like I said, if Google crashes and burns tomorrow, which is incredibly unlikely, I can't fix that. But when I teach something, it's designed to feed, not to work today and hope for the best tomorrow. I never did that. And you remember my traffic manifesto, like 90 different traffic tactics from 2006, 2007, whenever I released it.
I have traffic manifesto on one of my hard drives. I was looking through folders and I go, I have that. That was 2007. Yeah.
Too. So, I mean, that was my bestseller, which became my best-selling book, which became the core of my training programs all until recently when I used to be a guy who would create encyclopedias, and I was very proud of it. And in the early days of the internet, there was so much value in what I produced. And I could go back to the Traffic Manifesto today and find things I could do today. Shoot, coming up on 20 years later, and still be viable in this moment. And that was what I focused on when I started simplifying things. So now, when I release a program, it's not just a system. It's a system that's simpler than what you've learned in other locations. I can't promise it's simpler than everybody, but that is my goal. Also, I don't want to teach you something that's going to be dated. So Accidental SEO is 18 months old. And as I mentioned, I used it to the letter. I used the exact process that I teach from start to finish. I did no extra anything, and it worked.
Speaking of start to finish, somebody who's interested in doing SEOs and using your system, do they start with keyword research?
I address it very clearly in the program, but let me, I'll give this one away because I think this one is actually a pretty big deal. In the early days, before I started teaching anybody anything, it was my goal to rank on page 1 for memory foam mattress. My products were all memory foam sleep products. That was what my original business was for the first year I was online. We got robbed by a vendor. That company had to close almost exactly at 12 months. So I spent 12 months selling sleep stuff. At about month 9 or 10, I hit page 1 for memory foam mattress. And I was shocked by what happened. It was nothing like what I expected. I thought I'd be getting sales every day. And what I got instead was heartache, grief, and angry questioning people. Because a term like that, while popular and was worth traffic, I did not build my systems around educating. I had an e-commerce store. So I had educational things on my website, but I also had an 800 number at the top of my website. So what do you think people did? They called me first. And they were like, I can't find how to do this. If you click on this link, it will take you there. Oh, thank you so much. Click. I would get 10 to 15 calls like that a day. And it just made me sad. It was so frustrating. So my point in telling this story from nearly 20 years ago is that those big terms, there's value in them. But if you don't structure your processes to work around those big terms, there's almost no value in ranking there. In fact, it sucked so much time out of my day and it made me miserable. One thing that I did do right was ranking for the manufacturer of one of the products. I actually did an AdWords ad and I put my 800 number in it and I got phone calls. And at least twice a day, I would get a call. Hey, we're calling about our adjustable bed. And I'd say, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here for. Let me give you the number to reach their customer service. And I would do that. And they would be like, you were so nice. I said, well, that's kind of my job. Have a nice day. And I'd hang up the phone. That product I sold like crazy. So what I realized in those moments was you can target the big things. And to be honest, if you build it right, your website can provide value for that stuff. But the money is in the longer tail. To refine that even further and this is absolutely giving away the research side of my product. Questions are easier to rank for. We're also, if you follow the way that I suggest you build out your content, you will answer the questions and provide real value, which builds trust. And turn them into customers. That is my answer to the keyword research question.
Okay. And I've gone through your training, but I also knew that one of the answers to positioning is answering the question or anticipating the question. Because then you can look at buyer intent. I mean, or the searcher's intent, the person who's out there on the search engine, what are they looking for, Where are they in the buying process?
Well, and I think that the internet has an epidemic of trust right now. And I think you'd agree. AI everything makes things easier. So when that barrier of entry gets lower, lazy people do lazy stuff. So I have friends that have fully AI-powered websites that are perfect for them, have made them a bunch of money, get a ton of traffic, and they built systems that chain a voice and a brand into the content. And I'm talking, this has been a year plus.
Right.
And it works. And they're not teaching it. They're doing it for themselves. I mean, these are not super gurus. These are people that just run their business. And those websites are making money all day long because they didn't have a voice to start with. And that's fine. But for people like us, what's going to make a difference as time goes on, provide value to the world, legitimately help people, and actually know what you're doing and talking about. Now, if you're just starting, what do? I've had a bunch of customers over the last year and a half. They're just starting out. Accidental SEO will work on a newer website. Like I said, my website had sat there and done next to nothing for years. And I was able to use it and get traffic almost immediately. So if you don't know what you should be talking about, let's say you're starting up and you want to do an affiliate thing for some business opportunity guru, all you should be doing is talking about your honest real world experiences. That's it. Answer questions of other people like you. And if you are one half step ahead of people that are just looking to start, you have something of value.
Yeah, you do. Because people don't know. I mean, information is everywhere. I mean, we're flooded with information, but how do you know what to trust? And that's one of the...
And sharing your story is how you develop a relationship with people. And once you develop the relationship, as long as you're not abusing it, that's when the money starts coming.
Yeah.
Help people, do cool shit, tell cool stories, and the money comes from that.
Yeah, one of the products that I am involved with is a network marketing travel company. Well, I just finished a 30-day vacation, international vacation, and so to say I can teach you how to save on travel and things, I've got the credibility, and I know how to save on cruises and hotels and all that stuff, and so that is my unique voice, my unique experience too. So I can see that.
It makes all the difference in the world. And the key of what I'm trying to get at is that you have value to add to the world, whether you believe it or not. So you might as well walk in with a fair amount of self-confidence over the fact that someone wants to listen to what you have to say. So you need to start saying it.
And the idea of social proof and of different types of social proof, different types of content. I think that you're somewhat big on video.
Yes. Very, 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 very big on video.
And people are lazy. They don't want to read in the first place, so they would prefer watching video. And if you can rank for videos or video, and I know that you teach how to properly structure the metadata. I mean,
well, and it's funny because if we go back to the beginning, when you and I were both doing SEO stuff back in the day, very quickly we were able to cheat with metadata, so it stopped working, and that's actually changed quite a bit. And I don't want to go into that because that's one of my that's a pretty big part of the course. But the setup part that I go through is pretty detailed, and the stuff that I share is stuff that not only helps, but it can help you get more traffic from Facebook, other social websites. If you follow along with the stuff that I show you, it just works. And you can use it to gain an unfair advantage.
Things that the average
unfair
person
advantage.
Think of. Yeah. Things that people wouldn't, the average person wouldn't think of, you and I, we have some background as well. You have lots of background in SEO. I at one point found that it was too much work, so I backed away.
Well, and that's why I built this, because it doesn't have to be anymore. If you can actually be helpful, which is the key, everything else becomes easy. And I don't follow the algorithms anymore. Willie, I don't care. I don't care about what Google, there was a big shift. Let's say 6 to 8 months after I launched Accidental SEO. None of it impacted me or any of my customers that use the formula, because we didn't lean into the algorithm as it is at any point in time. What we're doing is we're providing value, making it easy for the search engines to see what that value is, reward us with traffic, and then continuing to earn it by actually helping people. And that's it.
Yeah, I noticed that some of my content from over 15 years ago still ranks, and I mentioned video. I have videos that have been out there about 20 years before when video was fairly expensive, and
Sure.
still getting clicks, so.
Oh man, Willie, I did one of the first, at least in the internet marketing space, one of the first virtual seminars, because my seminars, basically profits went up and plummeted. So I stopped doing them live, but I was able to get almost everyone of value to come. It cost me $10,000 to rent the technology to do a virtual seminar.
Wow.
Where now we've got like StreamYard, where it's basically the free version is enough for most people.
Yeah, it is.
I rented Adobe technology to be able to do the virtual seminar. It cost me $10K just to rent it for a weekend.
And that brings up another thought, totally unrelated to ranking in the search engines, but I've been taught over the years to record everything that you do. Have the videos, have the audios, have lots of pictures, that media, because you never know when it's going to come in handy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the coolest thing we probably said in the time that we've been together. I agree 100%.
I mean, I've been to over 100 seminars and conferences over the years. I've spoken at a lot of them internationally. And so when I mention somebody, I can easily throw up a picture of me hanging out. I was in the top 15 affiliates for Jeff Walker's product launch Formula 1 or 2. And so I can show me hanging out with Jeff Walker in Las Vegas, overlooking McCarran Airfield, looking down from a penthouse, and so that gives me credibility. That as an affiliate,
I just saw a picture of you and I from one of the first seminars I attended. One of the Warrior ones, I believe. And
okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That stuff, it always helps. Showing that you are actually in the room with the person you're recommending. It makes a difference.
It's not just about ranking. It's about, it needs to be credible. That's the point I'm looking at. Yeah. I'm looking at some questions that I pulled some of those from your website, the FAQ, but I went to ChatGPT and I said, take a look at this website and give me like 15 suggested questions. See, I'm using technology, but it gave me some questions that I didn't really want to answer. One of the questions: what are some of the ethical considerations involved in SEO, and how does your approach ensure ethical practices?
Well, that's actually a quite simple thing to answer. Ethics, when it comes to SEO, is down to the individual. And I think you and I have both seen people that are willing to manipulate systems and flip everything upside down and stand on their heads and spin in circles to rank in Google. That's not what this is. This is timeless, value-giving entrepreneurial sales process. And as it stands today, the process I talked about 18 months ago is more viable in this moment than it was even when I first taught this. And that's because the epidemic of trust we're facing with an influx of AI-powered gobbledygook all over the internet. All you have to do, the bar actually for creating trust has dropped so low because all the lazy dum-dums, they're doing the lazy person things. They don't want to be a face in their business. They don't want to interact with anybody. They don't want to actually help people. They're just after a quick buck. And that's 80% of the internet.
I looked at your guarantee on the site. I might as well give the URL to it. So it tracks back to me. I'm using williecrawford.org. That's Willie, WILLIECRAWFORD.org, and then accidental SEO. It's spelled just the way it sounds, and you can put a backslash, and you can use all lowercase. And this is, I gave that discussion earlier about the fact that this is podcasted, both audio only channels and video. So that's for the people listening to the audio only channels. It's williecrawford.org/accidental SEO. And that lets Ross know that appearing on my show is worthwhile. And but that I'm broadcasting potentially to tens of millions. But I look at each podcast that I do and I decide which ones are appropriate for pushing out to certain channels, because I can be on, the channels that a lot of people listen to every day while just out driving in their car, the Christian channels and the tech channels and all those, Delilah and all those same networks.
Sure.
I'm broadcasting to, so it's, and I have a panel that lets me choose which episodes I want to push out, and then it gives me statistics. I think numbers are very important too. Do you put a lot of emphasis on tracking your results so you know what's working?
Well, it's so important. Excuse me. Data-driven marketing is a surefire way to make sure you reach your people and get your point across. Because if you listen to what they have to say, and by what they have to say, I mean by the actions that they actually take, you almost can't lose.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed was your guarantee. I think it says something like, if you don't get the results, that you'll work with them until they do get the results, or something along that line.
So oddly enough, in the early days of my business, money back guarantee. For a while, ego-based claim, I'll give you double if you can prove to me my way doesn't work.
Oh.
But I'm not that level of confrontational anymore. And what matters to me most is that the people that go through my training get the results that I promise. So I will sacrifice my time, which is $500 an hour, to figure out what didn't work, why it didn't work, and most importantly, help you fix the problem. Because if there's something I didn't foresee that is stopping my system from working, that is something I intend to fix.
Okay.
So me giving up that $500 an hour, of course it costs me money. I would do it 100 times over to make sure that my systems work, that I'm actively helping people, and that what I'm teaching actually makes a difference for the people that buy from me. Because I know that I am better than most of the people they've been buying from. And I want them to be loyal to me. So the least I can do is be loyal to the people that put their faith in me and buy my programs.
I like
so
that.
That's my perspective on it.
You mentioned ego. My first two live seminars that I hosted, I gave them a lifetime guarantee. I said, you go all the way through my entire seminar, and if you don't feel that it was more than worth the money, just come to me and for life, and I'll give you back the money. And yes, I had one person who came to me and said, well, I'm not sure how much I got out of it. I said, well, you sat in the back of the room and never asked a question or interacted with anything, And then this was like 5 years later, I'm like, are you serious?
I have a story, and this is the opposite of what I just said. This is potentially could make me look bad, but I'm going to tell the truth because that's what I do. I had someone at a seminar buy a $10,000 done-for-you program, and I don't even remember what it was for. It was, we'll build your product, we'll build your traffic, we'll build all the systems together. So it was the first time I'd sold it. There was only one sale, and I gave her all my contact information at the seminar. This was from a seminar, by the way. She contacted me. We started work. We worked for about 10 days and she disappeared, stopped responding. And this was like yanking my heart out of my chest. I contacted her a dozen times following, saying, hey, where are you? Let's continue. If something's wrong, I'll try to figure out how to fix it. I'll change things up. If something about my approach didn't work, I mean, I gave dozens of things. I never heard back from her until 2 years later, where she angrily told me that I did not deliver on what she paid and that she would like a refund. And I told her, I'm terribly sorry, but that money was spent back then. Yes. If you had asked in that time, I would have considered it, but there's absolutely zero chance of me giving you your money back. However, you paid me for something. You did not receive it. I am happy to work with you and earn the money you paid me because I don't believe in getting paid for nothing. So let's get to work. Let's figure out how I can help you and get you that 10 grand worth of value back. We had one call before she did it again and disappeared. 10 years later, 10 years, Willie. She hit me up on Facebook and blew me up again. I paid you for something you didn't pay me. I have a new project and I'd like your help. And I said, okay. I said, but you must understand this is the final time you can do this. If we work together, I will give you $10,000 worth of value minimum. I will make sure that you get what you need. And I'm happy to do so. But if you disappear again, we're done. This is not something I'm going to continue doing for the rest of my life. We had 2 calls and she disappeared again. And I've not heard from her since, but I still see her on the internet. And I just kind of shake my head and wish her the best.
And I guess my thought there is on the concept of reputation management. You know, people can go out there and they can post all kinds of things about you, and you have to actually develop a thick skin and not worry about that, because especially if you get successful, very successful, people will go after you. They'll think, look at all the money him or her has, and they will want some of it. And that's when you get the black hat sites that grab your product and give it away because they figure, why not? You know, you don't need the money anymore, or, you know, and so there are people like that out there, yet the majority of people, I believe, are honest. And
I agree. Well, and the woman was her own worst enemy. She had some personal issues she needed to work through. She did not need me. If what she wanted, she had money, and this happened before, sadly. I had another instance of someone who had money to throw around. They wanted to throw money at it, but they didn't want to do the work. That's not me. If you're not willing to do the work, I'm not going to help you. It doesn't matter what you pay me, unless you pay me a very large amount of money, and then I'll just do it for you. But if you want my training, you actually have to go through the training. Like I had a person, another fun story for you, Willie. Right after the Traffic Manifesto launch, I was doing teleseminars, just free question and answer. I wanted to make sure that everyone got value out of what I did. What I didn't know was that a lot of people had paid 10 times as much for a competitor's product, and they preferred mine. Like I heard that years later.
yeah.
So I'm on the call and I'm just taking questions and answering, and none of them were go buy my other product. It was not for a pitch. It was just to help. I had a woman come on. She's like, I can't figure out how to get traffic. And I broke my own rules for a moment. And I said, well, ma'am, the reason I'm doing this call is because my traffic product just went out. I just started the launch. And of course, I made this call available to all my customers on my email list. So I don't know if you are aware of that product. Maybe you don't open my emails. And she said, no, I bought that product. That's how and why I'm here. I said, ma'am, have you opened it? She said, no. I said, ma'am, I would really like it if you just hung up the phone, go find your computer wherever you downloaded my product and go through it. If you have problems or questions, email me and I'll respond. I give you my word. Never heard from her again.
You and I have both dealt with, and we're off track, but customers who aren't suitable for our product. I spoke at a seminar that my friend Michael Penland hosted, for example, and there was one elderly gentleman there who bought every speaker's product, and he came to me and said, I really like your product. It was like $5,000. And I go, what kind of computer are you on? He goes, well, I don't have a computer. He said, I figured someday I can use it. And I said, you don't need my product. And he was disappointed, but I don't know. He was probably suffering from mild dementia or whatever. He probably bought $30,000 worth of product. And I said, you don't need my product, you know. I've had another customer who bought my product, didn't use it, gave it to someone else, said, here, let me sign this over to you. And that other person said, I want a refund. I'm like, excuse me? And that was like 5 years later.
So in my Vegas seminar, what you just said happened. So I had a gentleman that bought everything, and he had come into an inheritance or something, including my $10,000 coaching for a year offer. So I sat down with him and I said, buddy, as your coach, as your mentor, I have a bit of a problem with you buying everything. How are you going to use it all? He said, I can afford it. I want it all. And I want you to let me buy it. I let it go. I said, okay. And I did my best to help him implement as much of those things as I could. But I'm the type that I will focus on one problem. I will buy what I need to solve that problem. And then I will solve that problem before I buy other stuff outside of the baseline running my business expenses, right? When I went to the mastermind I'm in, it was to solve a very specific problem that I was having. because my business was stressing me out and I hated it. So I changed it with the help of my mentor and other mastermind members.
Yes.
I was able to completely realign my business into something that I love and I enjoy. It's like I'm starting at the beginning. When I first started, I was in a wheelchair because I was disabled. I was relearning how to walk on feet I can barely feel, which I can still barely feel, but I can walk. So I was spending 18 hours a day in front of my computer. Now, I don't know that that will ever happen again because I don't think that was ever a smart thing.
No,
But
no.
I
Human
do
body's
enjoy
made
every
for
minute now.
moving, and
Yeah.
actually just sitting for too long does damage to the body.
Yes, but I'm loving the work I'm doing again. And I was able to find that with the help of the people that I paid to help me and a mastermind is a little bit different. It's not just the mentor, but the mentored systems changed my business and my perspective on what my business was going to look like. I still believe most of what I believe. And I didn't go in thinking that he was going to change everything about my business. And he didn't. He can't. But he did help me figure out how to remove a lot of the stress from my work. And I'm having a ball again.
Yeah, and to me, that in my 60s, it's important for me to do what I enjoy doing, and that's part of what I like about your program. You know, you point out that you don't have to kill yourself to be good at SEO. You need to be consistent and follow a few simple steps, but deliver quality and value into people's lives. And
if you can figure out how to do that, you really have the core of what a business should be, which is to change things for other people. And even if you're just an affiliate, find someone you want to help that person, whatever that problem is or that series of problems is. It's easy.
When you're looking at selling big ticket things, I keep hearing over and over again, people aren't buying the product because of what it is. They're buying it for transformation. They want something about their lives to be transformed. And if you deliver that into their lives, it's certainly worth it to them.
It all depends on what you're trying to do, what problem you're looking to solve. And when you're looking to do more expensive things, you need to look at more expensive pains. And the easier it is that, you know, whatever your strategy is to remove those pains, people will pay upwards of $100,000 if you can solve the right problems.
Bill Bartman, who's deceased now, but he had a product called Billionaire University, which was $100,000. This was an affiliate product that paid 50% commission. And
goodness, that's nuts.
I tried to sell copies, issues, memberships, and didn't make a single sale. But you know, as an affiliate, I couldn't ignore something paying $50,000 in commissions.
Absolutely not. And there's I did something similar for a higher end $5,000 to $10,000 something. It was I thought it was valuable. I thought it was really cool. I didn't make any sales either, but definitely put my honest willpower behind that promotion. It just failed miserably.
But we do know how to get visibility in the search engines, and if people go ahead and check out your product, which is at williecrawford.org, not .com. There's a long story behind that too, as in I was getting so flooded with spam that I didn't read all my email, and an email from my registrar pointed out to me that my domain name had expired and I had X number of days to renew it. Got lost in the mix, and eventually it was dropped and over for resale, and somebody else over in Malaysia, I think it is, owns it now, you know. And what was interesting there is they kept my story I told, you know, growing up on the farm and all this stuff. They kept that story on the site.
So funny. That is so funny.
I know. But so I said, okay, .org sounds more authoritative anyway. And so I switched over to .org. So it's williecrawford.org/accidental SEO. And that'll push you over to Ross's site where they're going to ask, what are the upsells? You know, probably they're wondering that.
So what we did was we pulled together. I found that one of the problems with content and AI is that AI can not only get it wrong, but it can get it drastically wrong and make you look silly. So one of the things that I did was I took some templates that I had and I started feeding them into AI. And we found that the content output was much, much better, much, much clearer. So the first thing is a $10 bump offer right in the first order form that you can tick a box. It is not automatically ticked because I'm not shady like that.
I've seen those too much lately.
So icky. I don't like giving my customers the ick when they're trying to buy from me. So it is not ticked off, but it's $10. And the front end is $49 at a discount that is running not much longer, I believe.
It says the 22nd on your site. So
yeah, so that discount will be expiring for the new year in the next couple of days. But for now, it's there. And there is one single upsell, which is brute force SEO titled the Radiant Method. It is two things. It is a training. It is reliant upon understanding accidental SEO. Accidental SEO is the core of it. And it is very simply how to rank for those tougher keywords using a simple do this. If you get it, great, you can stop. If not, do it again. And you simply do the thing, you follow the process, and you will eventually rank for almost anything you could want. Now, if you're targeting something like sex, it's going to take you a little while, and you're probably going to have to do it over and over and over and over again. But let's say you wanted to rank for memory foam mattress. You could follow this process, and as long as you do it as I teach it, you will get there. Most importantly, it is also, in addition to the training, I am showing you me implementing it for some difficult to rank for digital business terms. In fact, there are 3 of them, but I'll save those for people that sign up.
Yeah.
So that is the big upgrade, and it's the only upgrade, and there is no downsell. I do not do that. I don't believe in devaluing my programs.
Yeah, there are people who put you through upsell hell, and then they got downsells, and some have like 20 in their funnel, and it's like, you got to be kidding me, you know?
Sure, absolutely. No, I don't play that game, and I will be releasing the Radiant Method separately in the near future. It is discounted until that release. That upgrade is currently available. I'm not covering what the price is. You'll see for yourself after you sign up.
And for those who hear this podcast after the price increase, maybe we can even somehow work a discount code or bonus. Maybe I can come up with a bonus for customers who buy through my referral. I'll have to figure out what that is, though. So those of you listening to this after the price increase, which reach out to me, just text me and say, hey, Willie, what do you have for the bonus for me? And
well, and I may be willing to discount this at other times and for other reasons. And the one thing that I'll say is this is a $1,000 course that is selling for way less than that. It will never be $1,000. That's not how I play. But really, what is it worth to be able to get organic traffic without having to understand and get a doctorate in Google science? Yeah. It's worth a whole lot more than what I'm charging, no matter what it is today. So most importantly, this is probably the most important part. Anyone that buys accidental SEO is getting into my community for free, where I'm there on a daily basis, answering any questions, interacting, and posting. I actually have a brand new bonus that's going to be going into the community in the next 1 to 2 days, as soon as I'm done with it. It is a part. It is part of the training that dawned on me that I wanted to include and just kind of didn't get to during the original workshop. And I'm not telling anyone what it is, but it's around the idea of selling stuff easier, faster, and in ways that are not only fun for you, but fun for your audience.
Excuse me. And I'm in the member only, the membership. So I'm looking forward to it myself. And I'm looking forward to actually seeing some of our listeners there, some of my audience there, say hi.
Yes.
With that, do you have anything else you want to throw out there?
I can't think of anything else. This was a lot of fun. And I don't think there's anything worth covering that we didn't cover. The one thing that I wanted to focus on was that, actually, I do have something that I don't think I covered fully. My health has been a challenge from the beginning. Early on in my business, like 2 weeks after I started, I went into a coma and woke up and found my first $1,000 profit. I didn't know that my body was breaking. And I've had some challenges, including lately I've had trouble walking at weird moments and other nerve damage related stuff. And oddly enough, nerve damage is something that isn't very well understood. When I first got sick, I was horrified, thinking I might lose my vision. I might lose my my sense of taste, my sense of smell. None of that happened. I have lost more of my sense of touch, but I'm okay. And I plan on being around doing this sort of thing for a long time. In the early years of my business, I did encyclopedias because I knew more than the average individual. That was my value. As I'm getting older, I don't want complicated ridiculousness. I don't want to teach complicated ridiculousness. What I do now is I simplify complex things. So SEO is where we started. I don't know what I'm doing next. I have a pretty good idea, but it'll be simplification. It's not complication. It's not the encyclopedia, because at this point in the game, the internet is evolved enough that we don't need to know every way. We just need to know ours.
Yeah, you need to know whatever it is that is your focus better than most people, and people will pay you for that specialized knowledge. I mean,
well, and again, accidental SEO is worthy not because I broke down every single Google thing. I in the original one, when I sold it, I said, this is not for you if you want to become an SEO professional. That's not what this is. Now, if you wanted to help a coach that knows nothing about the internet, you could probably charge for that using everything in accidental SEO. But if you want to go into some weird, like local competitive, crazy niche, that's not what this is. That's what the upgrade is, but that's not what accidental SEO is. So please don't come in expecting me to break down every bit of Google's algorithm every time it changes, what it is today, what it will be tomorrow. I don't have any interest in that. And I want customers that also don't have any interest in that. If you want,
and the majority of people that I deal with are business owners. I've shifted away from mostly internet marketers to business owners who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they're too busy watching employees try to rip them off, and watching suppliers try to rip them off, and watching customers shoplifting, and watching the bank try to charge them higher rates on loans. They're too busy running their business to want to learn things like SEO. So they will happily pay me I rank and rent websites, and they'll happily pay me a couple $1,000s a month, because they don't want to learn that stuff themselves, And so those of you listening that want to do SEO for other people, realize there are businesses out there that will happily pay you a lot to gain that knowledge that's in Ross's training.
Absolutely. And you could take what's in accidental SEO and, let's say, create a bunch of content around HVAC servicing in a small town and rank almost immediately for that sort of thing, because those people have no interest in creating content, trying to help people outside of what they do, or creating systems on the internet that lead them business. They're too busy doing what they do. And that kind of customer will not be outmoded as AI becomes more popular.
Right.
That level of street service is going nowhere. So doing accidental SEO and then renting it out to those people, that's viable. But again, don't think you're going to rank for sex or some other crazy competitive term with my system. That's not what it is, and that's not my promise. But if you want something that works, doesn't require a crazy amount of investment of time or money, this is for you.